Today on Primetime Local News' Agriculture Year in Review, I am joined by Todd Lewis, who is the president of the Agricultural Producers Association of Saskatchewan. So Todd, my first question is just describe 2021 agriculture in a sentence or two.
I think any time you discuss this year would be dry. I think that was the biggest thing everybody talked about was the dry weather, and it didn't matter east side of the province, west side of the province, north or south. Producers, be it ranchers or grain producers, were looking for moisture really throughout the year. We started going into the spring with adequate moisture, but there was very little subsoil moisture. And as the year went on, we didn't see those timely rains in a lot of the province, and we're pretty disappointed in some of the results as far as the amount of grain that was grown, and certainly cattlemen suffered poor pastures throughout the year, and so I think overall that would be the biggest story about this growing season was the drought. And secondly, I think as we've gone through the fall, I think the rise in grain prices, I think, is a good news story, a bit of a silver lining for those producers that do have grain to sell. I mean, there's really unprecedented pricing right now. It's in most commodities on the grain side. The cattle markets have fallen off some now, but I think overall disappointing with the dry, but there's some good news stories with the increases in prices.
So 2020 exports for agri-food in the province were up 31% compared to 2019. Unfortunately, Mother Nature had other plans this year. Do you know just how much the export numbers will change from 2020 to 2021?
Well, I think for volume, we're going to see higher volume in 2020, of course, just because of the production we had and really record grain shipping. I think, the railroads need to be, it's commended for the job they did in moving the grain and through COVID and supply chain issues. And of course, this year we're going to have some issues with what's happened with the flooding in BC. And, we're certainly going to be behind the eight ball a little bit as far as grain transportation, but unfortunately, we don't have as much grain to move, so that will help the situation to a point. I think as far as value of this year's crop, it's still be determined. What gets shipped, of course, it's going to be a higher value in many cases. So overall, when we look at the overall farm receipts on the grain side, it's hard to predict where we're going to be at, but I don't think we're going to be quite as bad as maybe we thought we were going to be just because of the high prices. But at the same time, if you don't have the crop to sell, it doesn't matter how high the price is. So it's almost a case where those producers with crop to sell are in relatively good shape, compared to an average year, and those that don't have anything to sell, of course, are seeing a real drop in income.
And this summer was very, very dry. I know a lot of producers are really crossing their fingers, hoping for the best this winter. Do you know just how much moisture producers are going to need to, get a good start next year?
Well, I think we need the snow in the winter is important for subsoil moisture, but also for runoff, into dugouts and sloughs and so on that are used for watering cattle and livestock. I think that's important to see some of them replenished. That's where the snowpack can really help. I think average to above average is what everybody would hope for. And if we get it or not, time will tell. Good spring rains can also make a huge difference as well. And I mean, really this year in the springtime, we had a pretty good moisture, and that was part of the issue. We had a crop that really got off to a good start, and just unfortunately, there was no reserves in the soil, and we didn't get timely rain. And so we had a fast growing crop that really needed moisture, and when it didn't get it, it deteriorated quite quickly. So I think that's what we're looking for is lots of rain and lots of snow in the spring and before seeding, and certainly after the seeding periods as well. But just because there's such low soil moisture, that's the real story, is that we don't have much in the bank, so to speak. So I think in some parts of the province, the eastern side saw a little bit of relief this fall. There's a couple pretty good general rains that will help us going into next year, but the west side of the province is dry and really is still in drought. So it's a concern, and producers are concerned going into next spring.
And looking back over the year, what stands out for you?
I think, you know, the good news story is the resiliency, I think, of producers, be it ranchers or grain producers that, you know, everybody worked together. We saw, you know, we saw grain producers, for instance, in some cases bail their crop you know, before harvest to be able to provide feed for their neighbors, you know, that are cattlemen, or in other cases, you know, we've seen, you know, a lot of the hay that's been moved around the province. I think, you know, far and wide there was hay gathered in spots, you know, ditches in southern Saskatchewan that aren't usually hayed, and you know, situations like that you know, I think helped a very difficult situation, far from remedying it, but every little bit helps. And I think, you know, on the grain side, you know, really with the conditions we had, there still was a crop that was growing, you know, in some very difficult conditions. And I think it speaks towards the agronomic practices we have now and how producers, you know, do their seeding and land management. And same thing with the pasture management. It's much improved over the years, and you know, we really did come through the drought better than we would have, you know, 20 or 30 years ago. So I think that's the good news story coming out of this, is that we didn't see things like major soil erosion and things like that, and you know, we're well set up to with the prices the way they are now to if we do get normal moisture again next year, we're going to have, you know, a good financial year, and hopefully get returned back to profitability and growing agriculture again in the province.
Absolutely. Todd, thank you for your time today.
Okay, great.